Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today marks my 33rd trip around the sun. In other words, it's my birthday, and I'm really happy to see that World of Tanks has celebrated by announcing a developer diaries revealing the Italian Autoreloading heavy tank tech tree. Of course, it's only to celebrate my birthday, right? So today for YouTube, I'm going to be watching the developers diaries videos that you can find on World of Tanks YouTube channels in whatever region that you live in. I'm going to be giving you my initial opinions on the Italian Autoreloading heavy tanks, and also massive thank you to Kittens from the Tanks GG website, who has also got the statistics from the super test of the first ever tier 8 premium autoloading heavy tank for me to take a look at afterwards. So it's going to be quite a video today, all things Italian auto-reloading and heavy. So without further ado, let's get started.
The Italian heavy tanks branch was announced at WG Fest in
along
Moscow.
With the Polish medium tanks.
Has been done since then. It's time to demonstrate to you the technological pinnacle of Italian heavy tanks, featuring an improved auto-reloader system.
Improved auto-reloading system? Okay, Wargaming, you're just teasing me now. Get to it, get to it.
Italy is a country with a long history of building
look at the
tanks.
Fiat. I've got a Fiat Punto that I still drive from 2004.
During the interwar period, Italians were making heavy tanks at the request of the USSR. Italians started developing vehicles for themselves since late 1938.
So just before the war. Didn't have a long time to develop it, right?
Vehicles, but the weight of these vehicles didn't exceed 30 tons.
That's not really a heavy tank in World of Tanks.
The end of World War II put Italian tank building on hold. The country's damaged economy was supported by the Marshall Plan. However, even with external help, Italy couldn't afford any major leaps in tank development after World War II.
Probably better things to focus on, right?
They couldn't even produce heavy armament. But that didn't mean they couldn't design new heavy tanks.
Oh. The propulsion system, the track system. Oh, here we go. Look at them.
4 vehicles. At Tier 7,
okay, 4 tanks.
P88.
Tier 7.
Although it is the only Italian heavy tank without an auto-reloader.
Okay, so Tier 7 doesn't have an auto-reloader.
With a high rate of fire at its disposal.
So this looks like this gun has by far the worst pen, but the better rate of fire. The other gun has the better pen, but the worst rate of fire. Probably a pay-to-win player is going to use the better rate of fire gun and just load gold when they need to have the extra penetration. And I think a free-to-play player is probably going to go with the other armament that has the better penetration, because they're not going to fire gold nearly as much.
There's a hint of another reworked wartime project in this tank.
What is it?
Concept using a rear transmission arrangement.
Okay, so the engine's going to be in the back.
Longer, but maintenance was easier. This solution brings to mind the experience of British designers who tried to make heavy tanks out of light tanks.
So unlike Soviet vehicles, you're not going to get set on fire every time.
For a heavy with average armor.
Okay.
The continues with the Progetto C45 Mod 54 at Tier 8.
So I'd like to clarify, considering this branch is going to start at Tier 7, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, go to your Tier 6 Italian medium tank and uncheck accelerated crew training. You're probably going to need roughly about 50 or 60,000 experience inside that vehicle, but you probably have several months to be able to start grinding. But if you want to play a game a day in it, you'll easily have the experience that you need to play the Tier 7 auto-reloading heavy tank, although it doesn't have the auto-reloader. The new Tier 7 Italian heavy tank without the auto-reloader on day 1.
It was influenced by not only the American pilot project.
So now we're looking at the Tier 8. Huge American influences. Look at the patterns
but also
there.
By the fact that most tanks in service with the Italian Army in the 50s and 60s were produced in America. The M46 and M47. In general, the concept of post-war tanks resembled the American Pershing. These vehicles were in service with the Italian Army by the mid-60s.
So are we going to have an all-round heavy medium tank?
C45 Mod 54 is better protected than its predecessor and has a more powerful 105mm
They look
gun.
fast.
But the most interesting aspect of the Progetto CC45
105mm gun.
it's the first appearance of the
360
Italian
Alpha.
Heavy's improved auto-reloader.
So just to pause this gun looks very similar to the gun that I just showed a couple of days ago on the T77, i.e. 3 rounds at a Tier 8 heavy tank. 360 means you can do 1080. We don't know what the intraclip reload is yet for the Tier 8, but it looks also as if the vehicles are going to have the same auto-reloading capacity as the Italian vehicles, where the shells take longer and longer to reload when you have less and less shells inside the magazine.
Let's talk more about it.
Okay, so the improved auto-reloading mechanism, Wargaming, come on. Tell me.
When there's no danger, shells auto-reload similarly to Italian medium tanks. The first shell loads the slowest, the last the fastest. The differences begin when you start...
Sorry, the last the fastest. So just to clarify, I did triple check and take a look at this, and as far as I can tell, the smaller the number of shells that you have inside the magazine, the longer the reload is going to take. I really wish they would just clarify this specifically, but maybe it's just the wording, and maybe I'm being a bit of an idiot. All you really need to know is they work in exactly the same way. Unlike the IS-3A, your DPM is not going to increase the more shells that you fire.
Start shooting. For example, let's take a situation when the first shell is ready to fire.
So this is a Pantera, I'm blocking it. So as you could clearly see, if you fire in an Italian auto-reloading medium tank before the shell is fully inside the vehicle, then that means that you are actually going to interrupt the reload completely, and so you'll have a very long reload of 14.3 seconds. However, with the heavy tank, you'll see that the reload is actually going to be substantially reduced. And the way that you can tell if the reload is going to be substantially reduced is, watch this. You can see that when the counter gets to 2 seconds, if you fire before 2 seconds, then you're actually going to have just a regular kind of reload. However, if you wait for these kind of brackets here to appear around your reload mechanism, which I guess is going to be a different number at a different time for different vehicles, but at least for the tier 8, which is in question here, it looks like it's about 2 seconds before the shell actually finishes reloading. If you fire between 2 seconds and 0 seconds, then what is actually going to happen is you will get a reduced reload speed for the first shell in the vehicle. So just to clarify, this doesn't mean that if you fire within 2 seconds of the final shot, you're still going to have a spare shell inside the vehicle, as you can clearly see here, but it means that you're going to have a substantially reduced reload to be able to get that next shell into the tank. So that's an incredible advantage to have in the vehicle, that if you fire with 2 seconds left, in theory, you're actually, while you still lose an entire shell, what it's going to allow you to do is to be able to get another shell back into the tank. Well, it basically allows you to fire early with less of a penalty. That's the key takeaway here. The improved auto-reloading mechanism means that if you absolutely, utterly have to fire 2 seconds before the shell goes into the vehicle, that you can fire and you will still lose the equivalent of pretty much 80% of the reload, but the shell that then you put into the vehicle is going to reload twice as fast. So I'd say that it kind of gives you about a 3-second boost to what you would have actually lost if you'd fired without the improved auto-reloading mechanics on the vehicle.
In the future, we'll focus on testing it properly.
So of course, it's all subject to change. Wargaming might allow you to have a bigger grace period. They might allow you to have a higher boost that you actually get from firing the shell. We'll have to see what happens. Let's take a look at the Tier 9.
Progetto C50 was inspired by German developments.
This thing looks beautiful.
By the late 50s, the Germans started working on their own tank design. Back then, it was called the Standardpanzer.
The Standardpanzer?
The French were interested
Very
in this
inventive.
project, and it helped them create the AMX-30 later on.
Wow.
But the Italians were the first ones to get the Zero Series Standardpanzer.
Wow.
It's safe to assume that these developments influenced the project, as they are embodied in the new branch at Tier 9.
So what is it? What's going to be good about the Tier 9?
C50 Mod 66
God,
has
that looks
all
like
the
a
features
chunky
of
boy.
mobile heavy tank, good dynamics, great frontal armor, a powerful 120mm gun.
What more do you want?
Auto-reloading system.
Wow, look at this thing. 400 damage, 268 pen. Reload doesn't look like the DPM is that good, but also not that bad, and 9 degrees of gun depression. It looks like that turret armor is going to be very well angled, and I don't see too many weak points on top of the tank. This thing looks like a hull down daddy, but I expect that the side of the turret is going to be very horrific, so you have to make sure that you always keep your gun pointed towards your opponents.
And good elevation and depression angles. This turns it from a support vehicle into a self-reliant combat vehicle. The pinnacle of the branch is a tank with the exotic name Rinoceronte.
The Rinoceronte. The Rinoceronte, which basically means rhinoceros in Italian. And this vehicle
This tank is highly mobile, which
I'm
allows it to
freaking out.
initiate an attack on the flanks along with medium tanks.
So Wargaming want to make more heavy tanks that are like medium tanks? I mean, part of me wants to just go, shut up, take my money, I want to be able to get this vehicle as quickly as I can. And the other part of me, which will probably shift towards a month or two after the vehicle's release, when I want to play my medium tanks and I'm getting bullied by a super fast heavy again, I don't know. I'm just going to go with the excitement of the vehicle so far and not think about the balance of the game.
Its great armor enables it to lead the advance.
490 Alpha.
127mm gun that deals 490 damage per shot.
Good lord. Good lord. Look at this thing. 268 pen, 127mm, which will be advantageous. That will allow you to overmatch all 40mm plates. There are quite a lot of medium tanks that have 35 or 40mm of side armor, so good knowledge of how this gun works will actually allow you to overmatch all 42mm plates inside the game. That's a substantial advantage over all of the other medium tanks. And just look at this thing's turret. I'm just not sure whether this turret armor is going to be monstrously thick or whether it's not going to be that good. I expect the upper hull will be okay. I expect the lower plate will be bad, and I don't think the thing's going to have very good side armor. We'll have to see what kind of gun depression this vehicle has.
Whose combat performance can't be underestimated.
Well, I kind of don't agree with Wargaming's statement there that in the current form, it's just a little bit less of a penalty when you absolutely utterly have to fire a little bit early. I don't really think it's going to be that good in its current form, but remember, everything is still in development and Wargaming might be able to adjust it. All I know is that this vehicle looks monstrous.
Has a unique set of characteristics that allow it to switch battle tactics.
That's true.
Summarizing Branch, it's safe to say that these vehicles are very mobile and can hold their own in firepower compared to same-tier vehicles. At the final
Look at that tier 10.
They will be shaped into completely capable vehicles that don't break the current balance.
Whoa! Okay, Wargaming, I'm super happy. You've given me two awesome things for my birthday. One, a developer's diaries and a look at the Italian Autoreloading heavy tanks, and two, probably one of the best giggles I'm ever gonna have, right? Yeah, they're not gonna break the balance. We'll see. We'll see about that. We will see. All in all, I'm super excited about these things, though. Goodness gracious. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the Italian premium heavy tank. But we don't actually have to have a look at it here, because the awesome kittens who made the Tanks GG website got the Progetto C45 Mod 71, aka the vehicle that is going to be the first Italian auto-reloading premium heavy tank in the game, up on here so that we can all enjoy it. So firstly, let's take a look at the visuals of this vehicle. Wargaming in their video mentioned that this thing has very good spaced armor all over the vehicle, and we can see that especially with the armor layout here. Take a look at this. If we look at the collision, you can see spaced armor over the cheeks, spaced armor over the mantlet, spaced armor over the upper hull, spaced armor over the side of the turret as well. So this means that one of the worries that I had, that maybe turning the turret to the side would make it incredibly weak, it's not going to be so much of a case. They're still going to be able to maybe shoot above or possibly below that spaced armor occasionally. And look, the side turret, it's not great with this plate here being 215. It doesn't look too bad. This will really hold very well against high explosive anti-tank and high explosive rounds, and that should allow this vehicle to be absolutely incredible with that spaced armor. While as it stands, if you don't use the gun depression on this tank, it's got a 120mm effective armor on the lower plate, and its upper hull ranges from about 190 up to about 210, depending on whether you shoot the space protection. But when you use the gun depression that this vehicle has, yeah, the armor becomes a lot better, and that's where this tank is going to be in its environment. As you would expect, tanks with gun depression and good turret armor love to be on a ridgeline dominating its opponents, and considering this thing's going to have an auto-reloader and turret armor, unlike you have on the Progetto 46, this thing could be absolutely incredible. So let's take a look at the statistics of this vehicle. I want to compare it for the base values here and not the effective values. So the damage per minute of 1,963, that's very good for a heavy tank. In fact, didn't you just see me talk about the T77 a couple of days ago? Well, yeah, Wargaming, all right. The Progetto 71, at least for now, has just got way better damage per minute than the T77, even though its gun, while it has a little bit less penetration and its intraclip reload is worse, it's pretty much the same kind of thing. In fact, this vehicle has the same aim time, it has better gun handling, it has 2 extra degrees of gun depression, it has less dispersion after firing, and better elevation angles. So this thing is looking absolutely incredible, considering that you can fire the shots out singularly and, importantly, reload them one by one. One thing I immediately noticed about this tank is that the statistics of it look very similar to the Prototipo Standard B. And in fact, look, when I compare the Tier 8 Italian Premium Heavy Tank to the Tier 9 Italian Standard Medium Tank, it's pretty much the same gun. The only things that are different are the shell velocity and the penetration that the tank has. The reloads are exactly the same. The intraclip is exactly the same. The amount of ammo it can carry is exactly the same. And while the gun handling is a little different, I really feel that what Wargaming are trying to see if it works with this, and remember, this is super early days for the statistics of this tank, but I want to get an idea of overall what this tech tree might happen. And you can get a very clear-cut idea of what the developers are actually creating from their initial statistics of these tanks. But I really feel like with the Progetto 71 that we should definitely be looking at these statistics with a grain of salt, considering it feels like Wargaming are just testing what would happen if we put the gun of a Standard B down a tier, removed some penetrations and some shell velocity, removed its gun handling a little bit, gave it some armor and lowered its mobility, because that's pretty much what is happening here. What I think we can take away, however, is what Wargaming are planning overall for this tech tree. The intraclip reloads are not going to be amazing, like on the American or even on the French autoloading vehicles. I don't think the gun handling on these tanks is going to be amazing as well, and I think they want the accuracy of these vehicles to be very poor. However, a lot of us who have the 430U will know just how little accuracy really matters if you're going to be engaging in short at mid-ranges. And as long as you're not trying to snipe at your opponent's weak points at 300 or 400 meters, you should be okay. The tank has a very good top speed limit and a decent reverse, but its power to weight looks absolutely abysmal right now. We'll have to see whether Wargaming decide that they want to try and increase that, or whether these vehicles are going to be fast to rush down a slope to get into position, but lack the clout in the engine to be able to maneuver up slopes, or even just wiggle themselves around. And while in Wargaming's video, they were really pushing this improved auto-reloading mechanism, as it currently stands, it doesn't really feel too special. So Wargaming, maybe you should try and think about how you can make that a little bit more useful, in my opinion, or interesting. At the moment, really, it provides a little less penalty for somebody who fires with a few remaining seconds on their second shell. But really, it's not going to be better than if you were to just wait those extra 2 seconds and then fire. Although that's a luxury that sometimes we don't have in our heavy tanks because we can't use our mobility to be able to control the engagement. So I do understand what they are suggesting here. So, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was my look at the Italian auto-reloading heavy tanks. What do I think? A tech tree to get excited for? Yes, yeah, I do. Especially the tier 8, 9, and 10 tech tree vehicles look absolutely awesome. The tier 10 vehicle looks like it could be meta-changing, at least for the dominance of the early aggressive positions that you would want to rush into. And the tier 8 Italian auto-reloading premium tank looks like it could come two ways. One, Wargaming decide to make this the loot box exclusive for the Christmas content this year. If they do that, I will be incredibly sad if they don't sell it individually. Wargaming, I implore you, I beg you, do not build up the hype for this vehicle and then put it inside a loot box as an exclusive. Please just sell it to us for whatever price you want to. Don't make us gamble to be able to get it inside loot boxes. And I think a preferred way, at least for me, is if Wargaming were to introduce this with a mission marathon. Hopefully sometime in November or December, where we can really make use of that holiday season. That would be an incredible event. And finally, when do I expect that the actual Italian auto-reloading tech tree will come out? I think the earliest this could come would be the Christmas period. Maybe Wargaming would incorporate it into their holiday season event. And if they were to do that and they will release it before the new year and not when people start to go back to their jobs and the holiday season kind of runs out in January, I can imagine that it could be one of the biggest holiday seasons for World of Tanks yet. However, my fear is that, in fact, we're going to get the Italian auto-reloading tech tree sometime in January and miss out on my opinion as to what is one of the most important periods for World of Tanks, which is always that magical November and December period. So, Wargaming, chop chop! You've let me know for my birthday, right, that we've got Italian auto-reloading heavy tanks coming out. So let's get to it. Let's have it in 2020. It's been an absolutely awful year so far, please, for Christmas, give us the Italian Autoreloading heavy tanks. And also the Progetto 71 outside of loot boxes. Yeah. I don't know. You can only ask so much, right, YouTube? Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. But if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments what you think about all of the auto-reloading Italian heavy tanks. Do you think they look incredible? Do you think they look awful? Let me know what you think. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.